All right, I'm sitting here with Raj, who's the CEO of Cascade Partners. I'm loving the quarantine beard, Raj.
It is definitely my quarantine beard. I figure if
Yeah,
my hair is going to get this long, I might as well let the beard grow out till
yeah,
I get my hair cut.
yeah. No, it looks good. I actually just gave myself 2 haircuts already. So,
There
yeah.
you go.
But the back of my head hasn't been cut. So, um, anyway, Raj, I appreciate you being on this live today with me because I think there's so many relevant things to be talking about right now, especially in your world when it comes to buying and selling companies. And the world has looked a lot different than it did 30, 60 days ago. But I want to kind of dive into that because, you know, differently than 2008, where money stopped. And we all remember kind of that September day in 2008 when money just literally stopped and really didn't pick up till 2010 in March of 2010. But now money has not stopped, it's slowed down. And
Yeah.
so as someone who is in the trenches all day in your world, you know, what does it look like today as we sit here on April 20th?
Well, it definitely, you said it, John, it definitely looks different. But even in 2008 and 2009, the world didn't stop. It just slowed way, way down, and people were really hunkering down. I think today it's a little different because, as you said, the capital hasn't gone away.
Right.
It's just different, and everybody wants to. I mean, I'm getting emails constantly. Hey, we're still in the market. We're still looking for deals. We've talked to probably more companies in the last couple of weeks about, hey, how do I use this as an opportunity to grow? Is there a great place for us to acquire some companies? We've thought about it. Valuation's been too high. We think they're going to come down a little bit. So I think organizations are starting to evaluate their options, recognizing that no one's going to take any dramatic moves that weren't already in motion until this economy restarts and they get a sense of, hey, what's the picture going to look like out over the next 3 to 6 months. I think when the economy restarts, people are going to step up and start executing on game plans.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about opportunities. Warren Buffett is always famous for saying, and I'm going to get this quote wrong, but that opportunities and great things are born in down markets and during a crisis. So I'm misquoting Warren Buffett, which I don't mean to, but that's the gist of it. So what are some of the opportunities in the market right now?
Well, right here in this moment is an opportunity to seize time. Mm-hmm. Something that I think is a rare commodity for many organizations and teams, and the running around and the hustle bustle of their daily lives. Even for us, our tempo is lower, so we're able to think a little bit and look a little farther ahead. So I've encouraged organizations to use this time to figure out, hey, how do we look out into the future and be ready? So today, hey, it's planning. Who are the right companies to be working with? If I've thought about selling, have I gotten all my records organized? Did I do that preventative maintenance that I can never do? Paint that equipment that, gosh, I've been wanting to do, but if I stop to paint, I lose volume and I lose production.
Right.
This is a great time to look at preparing for what will be available or what you're going to do when we come out of this and the economy starts rolling open.
I love what you're talking about right now. As a business coach, I'm talking to a lot of my clients about getting reconnected with your vision. It's easy to stay kind of in where you are right now and live in some of that fear, but you gotta carry the vision of where you're going, not only for yourself, but for your people as well. How far out are you kind of talking to your clients? Are you looking 12 months out, 3 years out? If you can kind of frame that a little bit more, because I love the way you articulated seize the time, because it really is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as little as 3 months out and as much as 3 years out.
Yeah.
You've got to be thinking in all of those time frames because it depends on what your motivation is. It's I want to grow and I've been doing great and I have a plan how I'm coming out of COVID. It might be, wow, what suppliers might make sense to bring in-house. We've been wanting to do this forever. We've just never had this capability. There are going to be companies that are struggling, that weren't prepared for COVID-19 and aren't going to survive well afterwards. There's going to be companies that are like, hey, I get it. Scale matters, right? If I haven't learned my lesson, if I can be part of a bigger organization, we can buy better, we can supply chain better, I'm going to join with another group. And the third is going to be a group of folks that say, you know what? I survived 2008, 2009. I'm getting scared to death by what happened. I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's time for me to exit. So those are all the kinds of sellers, but in terms buyers can be looking at those types of companies. And this is relationships, right? When you're doing a transaction, build those relationships. If you're thinking about, hey, you know what? I've done great. I'm ready to retire. I'm ready to move on to the next thing, or we've gotten a great return on our investment. It's time to exit. It's the same dynamics play in is how am I getting through COVID? Am I measuring my cost? What is COVID costing me? So when I'm talking to a buyer, I can say, see, here's my normal earnings. Here's my one-time expenses that were associated with COVID. And here's how I'm coming out of it. Because you're going to have to demonstrate you're coming out of it and it's a blip. Because smart buyers are going to have to look at this period and say, hey, this was an anomaly and I'm going to look over it. But they're only going to look over it if you're actually starting to come back out of it.
Well, and I would think, Raj, that even if a company isn't thinking about, but in the back of their head is thinking about 1 year, 3 year, 4 years down the line, that they're going to have to be measuring one-time costs of COVID, because it's probably going to be a little bit of this until we get the vaccine. So what a great tip that is, just in general, to start as early as possible.
Well, and how are you going to use this to change your business approach?
Yeah.
Right. So if these Zoom meetings and if you're like most, I mean, I've done more Zoom video meetings or Teams meetings or video conferences in the last 2 weeks than I probably did in the previous 6 months. Yeah. And I like them. Is there a new business strategy that says, hey, how can I sell my services instead of putting my guy on the road or my gal on the road every week? What if I put them on the road every other week? Hey, it's going to save me a little bit money, but am I accomplishing as much or more? How can we use this to say there's a new way to shift my business? Physicians have been slowly adopting telehealth as an example prior to COVID-19. Great capacity or interest from patients, modest adoption from physicians. Whew. Nearly every practice out there is figure out how to deploy telehealth in 2 weeks in order to stay operational. Well, how's that going to change their business going forward? Right. And how can they use that as an opportunity to accelerate, not take away, but accelerate revenue? And that's where I think we've got to be smart. That's going to play 2 years and 3 years down the road.
Yeah. Well, I love everything that you're talking about, because not only I'm just going to go back to the first thing you talked about, seizing time, right? We're all running around, to me, one of the lessons, and, my heart and prayers go out to everyone affected by COVID, but one of the lessons that I think we'll all pull from this is how much we value and need to not be running 10,000 miles an hour. And that there is this technology at our fingertips where if this all happened 10 years ago, we couldn't do this. We have this technology. Let's take advantage of it. I mean, right now there's social distancing and you and I are still able to connect and talk. It's great. It's great. And not only you talk about every other week, but what that does for the environment too, when you're traveling less, and so many things that it ripples. But the relationship capital, I want to kind of dive into that a little bit, because I think post-COVID, if you can keep the face-to-faces and have the videos, you're building relationship capital. How have you found that video has built the relationship and kept the momentum going? And do you see it changing post-COVID using video?
I hope so. There's nothing's going to replace, let's not be mistaken, nothing's going to replace that face-to-face interaction with that key supplier, that key customer, that key business partner that you're going to have to do. And if you're like, as an extrovert, you have to do.
Correct. I agree with that. Yeah.
But the power of the video call and the engagement and the intimacy that it creates versus the phone call, I've personally found incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed it over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Folks that I catch up with regularly on the telephone, private equity partners, and lenders and lawyers, we have good conversations, but when we've done them by video, they've been more meaningful. They've been more impactful to me. I'm hoping they've been more impactful to them. And I know our team has felt that way. And so my hope is, and my intention is, to the extent possible, instead of doing phone calls, I'm going to try to do video calls if people will allow it.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about your team. Let's talk about as a leader, an owner of a company and managing remotely, right? I mean, I feel like for many companies for the last many, many years, they've all been trying to figure out this remote thing. And a lot of it has been driven by the millennials, which is kind of like, hey, give us flex time, give us remote time. And now every company in the world had about, 7 days, to kind of figure out how to make it work. And so how are you figuring out how to make it work? And what are some of the things that have been working?
Well, I hope I figure it out.
Work motion, right.
Yeah, I mean, our business is one of collaboration and brainstorming and leveraging the great experience and insight that everybody from the most junior person onto the team to the most senior can bring to the bear. So that's been hard, right? It's hard for me. It's how I work, but my team has been phenomenal. We're doing videos and we're getting on the phone and not hesitating to connect to make sure that brainstorm isn't lost and that water cooler conversation is picked up. But, communication, I think, is the key, is making sure the team's getting together and trying to engage. And it's harder. It takes a lot more work to make sure folks are getting the intent and everybody understands what the objectives are and what the end goals are. But when you have a good team that are working hard, they're pulling forward and they've been thinking out of the box. Our team's come up with some great ideas about, hey, how can we better serve some of the clients that we work, because they've had a little bit of that extra time to, gosh, I've been meaning to do this, or I've been thinking about this for a long time. Here's my chance to go do it.
Yeah. It's interesting, just going back to time, because I think a lot of times people are finding that they have more time, but a lot of people have less personal time because we're all living with our whole families right now. And so how are you carving out time to do things just for yourself?
Yeah, it's hard. Well, and it's hard in what you can do, but you have to create good boundaries and good expectations. If you're 8 to 5, 8 to 6, hey, that's your time to work and do things. You're going to take time out. Our team is like, blocked it on my calendar. I'm busy with this other personal thing I've got to get done, but I'm available at this other time. And a lot of our work is interaction. So you got to interact when everybody's interacting. But a lot of our work is sitting down, grinding through, figuring it out, doing the analysis, putting the models together, thinking about positioning. Well, I can do that at 7 o'clock at night or at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's being flexible by knowing when that stuff's got to be done by, so the rest of the team can operate and meeting those timelines and commitments.
Yeah.
But,
sorry, go ahead.
The good technology lets everybody know when hey, I'm available and when I'm not available.
Yeah. Let's talk about the opportunities in the marketplace. Who are you, for you and Cascade, where are you seeing the opportunities in? And a lot of people are talking about it's a sensitive time to, do business right now, but there's still business happening. So who are the types of clients that are not only calling you for questions, but still kind of in the market to buy and or sell? And, what are those companies kind of thinking? How can you help them?
Well, I mean, at the end, John, you got to start with that. This isn't like a typical recession, and we're going to be in a recession, right? But this isn't one that, we've been gradually rolling up and industries are struggling and this is kind of all of a sudden we shut everything down to prevent the spread of this disease. So I think folks have recognized this is temporary. It's going to be devastating in some industries, and small businesses and restaurants and many segments of the service industry are going to take years to recover. But others, they're still in production today. Critical infrastructure, healthcare, technology, infrastructure, government, they're still operating today. And others are looking at it saying, hey, I'm still going to build a house. I'm still going to renovate my house. right? Those folks are, I'm going to still deploy technology. So business will come back and people are thinking about, okay, what's that going to, so we're seeing it across many sectors, everything from the healthcare and physician world to industrial manufacturing, to manufacturing in the automotive sector and the healthcare sector, or in telecommunications, are all areas that, you know, who survived well and who's going to recover quickly, they're going to have a lot of action and interaction. And those that are strong, even in distressed industries, are going to have opportunity. And many are looking back to 2008, 2009 saying, who played that?
Yeah.
You know, those industries that took advantage and recognized, you know what, this is going to end, I'm going to step in, had significant and huge benefits. It's risky, it's hard, it's not
Yeah.
without challenge, but no part of business isn't that way. And I think smart executives and CEOs and boards are going to look at this and say, how do I want to position?
Yeah.
How much risk do I want to take on? Where do I want my organization to be 3 and 5 years from now? And that's the vision that you got to be looking at. Say, if I want to be there in 5 years, whether that's I want to be retired on the beach, or hey, I want to be $150 million or $50 million, you got to start putting those pieces in place today. And it just got a little bit less expensive and maybe a little bit easier to identify more opportunities. Not cheaper, not safer. The risk is, you know, when price goes down, risk goes up. It's a risk reward. So.
Yeah, no, I love what you're talking about. I mean, start with the end in mind and then rewind and reverse engineer everything that needs to get done to make it happen. And then it's all about the granular elements. The only thing I'll add to that is, to me, it's so important to have a living business plan, right? So we can all plan, but a business plan, a lot of times, and I'm sure you see this all the time, somebody creates a business plan, they put it in a drawer, they look at it a year later. A business plan needs to be a living document that you're looking at twice a day, every morning, every night, and adjusting it to the market. Especially now, I mean, you know, we're 4 or 5 weeks into this, and the market is feeling different than it did 5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, even last week. Last week seems like, I mean, we connected a couple of days ago. It seems like it's been almost 2 months.
When you're living through Groundhog Day, as many of us feel like we're going through,
Right.
you know, a plan is a document that lets you react to what you expected to occur and give you more time to think about those things that you didn't expect to occur.
Right.
So, you know, building your plan for, hey, how am I going to restart my business? Right? If you lay it out today, and then, but we don't know what the rules are. Well, once you know the rules, the things that fit your rules, you've already thought about. So now you've created more time to think about those things you hadn't considered. You know, I sit on a board of a health plan, and I remember going through healthcare reform saying, how do you build a long-term 5-year strategy, what we're supposed to be thinking about at a board, when the rules of the game are changing?
Yeah.
You know, like a smart board with a good leadership team, we're like, let's focus on those things that we know are never going to change. What are the fundamentals? Taking care of our patients, right? Transparency, all those things where let's build around those. Growing demand from consumerism in healthcare. Those things are going to not change. It doesn't matter what the rules are. And let's build our business and our strategy to do that. And that's been incredibly successful for that company, because it's, let's focus on that 5-year plan. We'll shift tactically as we're going there, but that's the end game. And, you know, your end game might change and it might shift a little bit, but you're always working your way, and it lets you, you know, as I always describe, you got $10 worth of stuff that you want to buy, but you only get $3 to spend.
Right.
Every day. And so that helps you know, are those $3 I'm going to spend helping me get towards that goal or not? If they're not, I'm not going to spend it.
Yeah. That's well said. That's good sage advice. Fundamental, simplistic, and solid. But, you know, it's interesting as you're talking about, we're talking about vision, you know, 3 months out, 3 years out, et cetera. And I think we may have talked about this in the past, but, you know, studies show that by the year 2030, 85% of the jobs that will exist in the year 2030 do not exist today in 2020. And that 75% of the global workforce in 2025 will be millennials, and 50 to 51% by 2027 will be freelancers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what's happening right now with COVID is going to accelerate all of that, because and one of the things universities have been talking a lot about is, how do we educate people when we don't know what the careers are going to be like? And so one of the things they've talked about is teaching young adults adaptability. And I see in my own kids who are 14 and 17, they've had to learn to adapt to a lot of new things in life that they would never have had to. And so I think, when it comes to what you're talking about, change and innovation are key to every element of vision setting.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have to teach young adults adaptability. I think we got to teach the old farts how to be adaptable, because the world we grew up in didn't change this fast. It didn't adapt.
That's true. Yeah.
I think there is wisdom and insight that we can learn to adapt and be more flexible and change more quickly, just as young adults, as they're coming up, can realize, hey, being steadfast in some areas can be really long-term successful, even if you're adapting, shifting around the mean, that the combination can be incredibly powerful. So as always, I think the younger generation can learn from the older generation, but as older generation, unfortunately, I'm in that category these days, can learn from the younger generation about, just because this is the way we've done it doesn't mean it's the way we have to do it.
Yeah.
I think as universities and graduate programs and work environments focus on, let's get the fundamentals right. If you have the core competencies and the core skill sets, how to interact with people, right? How to do analysis, how to think outside of the box, those will carry you whether you're a money manager, a physician, a factory worker, running a restaurant, whatever it is, they will help you excel and succeed there, because those are going to change. You're going to go into it. I look at how many people are doing career shifts. I was doing banking my whole life, and now I'm doing wealth management. I was an accountant, and now I'm a finance, an investment manager, or I'm running a restaurant, or I'm a consultant. I was in real estate, and now I'm an executive coach, right? So many people have made incredibly successful shifts.
Yeah.
By latching onto the core competence, what they're really good at, and knowing that those are not fad, that they're sustaining.
Yeah.
How we deliver it might go away. There might not be a need for investment bankers 10 years from now, but those skill sets will translate into one of those jobs that don't exist today.
Yeah.
That'll exist, in years to come.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right, Raj, give everybody just a quick snapshot of your company, who your ideal clients are, and how they can get a hold of you if they want to connect.
Sure. So Cascade Partners is a middle market investment bank and private investment firm. We're based here in Southfield, Michigan, with an office in Cleveland, Ohio as well. And really, our goal is helping to have an impact on people's lives through helping them evaluate mergers, acquisitions, selling businesses, buying companies, and financing, whether it's for growth or, today's environment, getting through this crazy world we live in. And you can learn a lot more about us at cascade-partners.com. And we're happy to share our insight and just try to be good citizens in this crazy world that we're living in today, John.
Yeah. Well, Raj, I can't thank you enough. Always fun and a pleasure talking to you. I learn something every time we connect. Keep the beard going. It looks great. And thanks for being on my Facebook Live today. And we'll definitely connect soon.
John, thanks as always. I appreciate your time with you and the insight that you bring as well.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks, Raj. Have a good one.